Hi, my name is Pat Freeman. I work with Globe Manufacturing Company in Pittsfield, New Hampshire, and we're here today to talk about when and why you might want to replace your PPE. What I'm going to talk about is NFPA 1851. NFPA 1851 is a standard that actually sets forth guidelines for selection, care, and maintenance of protective clothing. This is a standard that absolutely requires a mandatory retirement for any gear 10 years after the date of manufacture. But most often we find that gear isn't going to last 10 years. So what I want to do is give you some pointers on how to decide when the gear should be retired. I have some forms that I also want to bring to your attention. These are advanced inspection forms. We're going to talk a little bit more about advanced inspection, but basically these forms are available on our website, PPE101.com. And please feel free to take advantage of that website. When we talk about when and how to retire gear, I know that there's going to be a lot of questions from the audience. As a matter of fact, I believe we have a question right now.
Hey Pat, what do I look for to determine if it's time to replace my PPE?
Really good question. So what are you going to look for in order to determine when it's time to replace your PPE? Well, the first thing you have to remember is that any set of turnout gear is comprised of 3 separate layers. There's always an outer shell, a thermal layer, and a moisture barrier. And firefighters tend to look at the outer shell because it's so visible. You tend to see things on the outer shell. What you need to be aware of is if you see something on the outer shell, you want to be sure and look at the inner layers to see if you're seeing the same thing. You're going to look for signs of scorching, which could indicate burn damage. You're going to look for rips or tears. You're going to look at things like the seams. Do I see any seams that are in need of replacement or retirement? Those are the things that are going to be your visual aids to tell you to look at the inside of the garment. The other thing you're going to do when you get to the inside of the garment, as dictated by NFPA 1851, is you're going to perform a complete liner inspection. The complete liner inspection is done on the moisture barrier. The moisture barrier layer is required by NFPA 1851 to have a complete hydrostatic test. And once again, I'm going to reference you to NFPA 1851 and I'm going to refer to PPE101.com. PPE101.com will give you the complete details and instructions on how to perform this complete liner inspection. And that leads to another question.
Pat, what do I need to know about performing a hydrostatic test?
So what you need to know about the hydrostatic test or the complete liner inspection, which requires the hydrostatic test, is that NFPA 1851 requires that it be performed on the moisture barrier layer after a garment has been in service for 3 years. The way that the hydrostatic test is done requires a special apparatus known as a hydrostatic tester. And the purpose of the test is to make sure that the moisture barrier is still capable of preventing any liquids from entering the system. At the same time that you're doing the hydrostatic test, it's a perfect opportunity to take a look at your thermal liner. Your thermal liner has a quilt bat, and it's that quilt bat that's actually going to give you the insulation that you need to protect you from the heat. What you want to look for is any loss of quilt, any shifting quilts, anything at all that alerts you that maybe this gear needs to be taken out of service. And I think we have time for one more question.
Pat, is there any guide available that gives us an idea of repair costs?
Well, actually, NFPA 1851 is a standard, so that means it has mandatory requirements. But it also has useful information at the end of the document, which is referred to as the annex. The annex has guidelines. One of those guidelines is actually a chart that will help you compute the repair costs to help you decide if additional monies are justified in order to return a set of gear back to service. And once again, I'm going to refer you to PPE101.com, which is our website, and you can find that chart on our website. So I want to say thank you for your time today. On behalf of your good friends from Globe Manufacturing and the National Volunteer Fire Council, stay safe.